My name is Andi, and my childhood, I would say I grew up as a non-believer. If I did go to church, it was very much like by myself as a kid, just kind of randomly. Whenever my mom and dad, they split up when I was really young, probably like 5 or 6. And so I stayed with my mom for a while. But yeah, and then when I turned 10, I moved in with my dad because my mom started acting funny. But back then I didn't know what she was doing. I just knew that she was acting weird. But now as a grown-up, I know that she got into like some sketchy things like drugs and, all those things that are not good. I went with my dad. I moved back into town. He wasn't very well off. He just kind of did like odd jobs here and there and just whatever he could do. Like he was very much construction type and he worked for himself. So like people would just randomly like not pay him, like just do those kind of things, that people do. And so definitely did not have any money growing up. And it just kind of just got worse. I was a very shy kid though. I was very to myself, very like rules. I didn't really do anything bad or anything. But yeah, we were poor for sure. Didn't have any money. Slept in some cars, other people's houses sometimes, And then when I got to be like a junior high kid, I met this individual, and it was an older lady and her husband. I moved in a neighborhood with their family, and she really liked me and my sister, and she tried to help us and talk to us, and like not about the Lord or anything, but just about, I don't know, like if we needed something or like would take us to her house or just whatever. And I thought, like it was good. Like it seemed like a good thing. So long story short, we end up moving in with her and her husband. And at first it's okay, but she just ends up being super crazy, actually. She ends up being like, more like, I've never understood really when people were talking about like mentally abusive, because it seems like, what are you talking about? I don't know. Like somebody could really like mess with you that much. But she was more of like that. She didn't like she only like hurt me like one time, but it wasn't like as far as like breaking my hand or something like that. But other than that, it was more of like, she was just really mean to me. Yeah. And she would just like, I think I'm gonna cry. I don't even mean to cry. But it's okay. I actually never did cry until I got in Christ.
Wow.
Ever. Really? I mean, I did every now and then, but like how I cry now, I never cried like that. Ever. Well, she was just kind of like really just ripped me up. Like just made me feel like I was just blah. And she was like oddly super, super jealous and would just be like thinking that I'm after her husband. Just like weird things like that. I lived with her probably until I was 17. And I was like super rules, super quiet to myself until about 11th grade. And then I had friends up until that point, but I didn't start like opening up to other people probably until I was a senior. And when I was a senior in high school, then everything started to change because I started making friends with more popular people because I don't know, I just met this girl and we just started talking. We just ended up being like best friends, but she was, I guess, pretty popular. And so when I started talking to her and getting to know everybody, they found out who I was and they just thought I was really funny. I don't know. They just liked me. So I ended up getting into a lot of things, like more of like the party scene of high school.
Yeah.
And then it went from party scene to high school to like surpassing that. But I ended up getting kicked out. That's what happened. Not because anything too crazy. I was kind of mild. I was like your average like high school party kid, I can't remember. One day I think I left and I was with one of my friends and she was like, if you don't come back, you can't come back randomly. And I was like, oh, I don't want to come back. So I was almost 18. So I was like, I just want to leave. So she threw all my stuff out on the porch and I was like, fine. So at that point, in my head, I couldn't go back to my dad's house because I wasn't 18 yet and I wasn't 100% like on my own.
Yeah.
So there was like a couple of weeks where I just like stayed at my friend's house. I just like went everywhere. Like I was just, I guess technically homeless, but I always was with somebody. I was bouncing around literally for a few weeks until I went to my dad's house and I was like, hey dad, I'm back. And I don't know what happened. Like I know me and my sister leaving was really hard on him, and it kind of made him go down like a more like depressive type of thing, because when we left, it was like court type of thing. It wasn't just like, bye. And he was like, see you later. Like we went to court over it. So when I came back, I mean, he was happy, I guess, about it, but he just wasn't there. Like if we were in a house, I would be in my room and he would be in his, or just whatever. And I just did whatever I wanted to do because I was an adult. I was 18. And so he didn't really do anything. If anything, I ended up coming in and just like paying the bills and taking care of the house like it was my house, and he was just there in the background. So I didn't really have like a stable childhood or like parents ever. And so college comes around and I started a job and I met some even worse people than that I'd always known but not like really hung out with. And so then I started hanging out with them and getting into even like more than just a party scene. I started doing everything, honestly, smoking, drinking. I would take a lot of Xanax all the time. And I would drink all the time, like with them. And so I would turn into a zombie, like all the time. Didn't remember anything for days. It would just be just doing whatever. I got to a point where I couldn't even, like, I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to do anything because all I wanted to do was get high, honestly. And I would literally be so jealous. Like, I would let them use my car, these people I used to hang out with, and I would let them use my car. And I'd be like, I guess major FOMO. I'd be like, no, like, I'm literally just not going to come to work and I'm just going to go and do whatever. Because like, everything I took or did, I used to sell. So, I mean, it was just funding the habit, I guess is why I did it. And so, I would do all of those things. And then actually at that job, I met Colton, met my husband. And so a lot of the people that I was doing those kind of things with, they were a lot rougher than my high school friends. Like my high school friends were like party white kids, you know, like it wasn't like crazy. It was like the kids that they would be scared of. You know what I mean? It was a lot more in the street type things. Yeah, it was pretty rough. I met Colton and I don't know, we ended up just clicking. And at that time, I was doing a lot of things as far as like sleeping around and not dating anybody. And I would just do whatever I wanted. I was very much like, nobody's the boss of me. I'm going to do what I want. I don't really care what anybody, like, I just was big chilling is what I thought. Yeah. And so when I met Colton, it's like, honestly, it's like supernatural. The fact that I would even give him the time of day, to be honest. And not in like I was all that, but more of like in that I would even consider being in a relationship with somebody. We end up hanging out or talking, and we were together for like 3 days nonstop. Like we just hung out all the time, and we ended up just talking and clicking. And so he was like, I want you to be my girlfriend. And I was like, I was like, I don't know about that. And he was like, yeah, I think so. And I was just like, you know what? Okay, why not? What the hey? And so I was like, okay, we can do that. And so after 3 days, we were dating. After 2 weeks, we decided, you know what? Let's just move in with each other, because his roommates were being crazy anyway. So we were like, let's just move in with each other. What a great idea. And so 2 weeks later, we moved in with each other. And then 2 months later, I got pregnant with Addison, our oldest daughter. And so luckily, by the grace of God, neither of us were crazy, because like, I don't know this guy. You don't know anybody after 2 months. Like now that I am an adult, I know. Like you don't know anybody after 2 months at all. So luckily it ended up working out. It was definitely the Lord. We ended up being together. We weren't saved yet still. And I was still friends with my friend that I was friends in high school that I said introduced me to everything, I guess. We were still friends, and she ended up getting with somebody that had a lot of influence and a lot of money. And so we would hang out, and I would still do those things because they were like super available. And so even when Mason was little, I kind of toned down some, but I still would like go out and, you know, like do the responsible partying, you know, like where you have a babysitter and you don't go too crazy kind of thing. And so I would do that, and we were just still very much unsaved. And so about a year goes by, and one day we were out on a boat, actually being a little too crazy. And Colton had like this sobering moment, you know, like that you get when all of a sudden you're like super crazy out of it, whether you're just like high or drunk or whatever. You have a sobering moment. All of a sudden you look around and you see where you are and what's going on. He had that, and he was like, I just don't think this is for us, you know? So he didn't say anything to me at the time. We were doing like some crazy stuff, so I could see how he was looking around like, dang, this is wild, you know? And so we ended up going home, and he talks to me and he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, what do you mean you don't want to do this anymore? He was like, because that's how he was when we met. I mean, right. I was just like, I mean, he was never as crazy, but still, like, we would like smoke together. We would just, you know, do whatever. We just get out together, you know? And so he was just like, I just really don't think there's got to be more than this, you know, like we're not doing anything. I was like, kind of mad. I was really mad at him actually for a whole day. But back then, even now, like we get along pretty well, and we've always like meshed together. And so I was like, okay, you know what? You know, like, you're right. So we ended up going to a church, and we went to more of like a seeker friendly is what they call it, I guess, church. And I would say we went there for about a year before I think we got baptized. I think we probably like gave our hearts to the Lord at some point. I don't remember, honestly, it being like this big moment back then. I just remember like committing to go. And then we went there for, I would say like 3 years. We went there, and over time we got, I guess you would call it more serious, because at first we would like go to church on Sunday, but like the night before I was partying, like I was out like all night doing whatever I want to do. And then I would go to church because obviously hey, you gotta go. And so eventually though, we realized that was wrong too. I don't know how, honestly. It wasn't any of the messages, to be very honest. I couldn't tell you any message. It was literally just like, the more that I went, the more I realized that like, it was like, you're lying. I don't know. Yeah. It just, one day it just kind of fell off, and I was like, I want to be completely done with this. So we cut everything off, and we were like, you know what? We're not going to do this anymore. But then we found out that everybody was doing that. Like once we stopped doing it, everybody in the church leadership, everybody was doing that. And it was actually like a lot of people, I wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people were very hypocritical. And we were like, you know, I just feel like this isn't right. Like there's gotta be more than this. Just like, again, there's just gotta be more than this. This isn't like, I remember when I had all this crazy fun and I was doing all these things, I didn't give all that up for this. There's just literally gotta be more than this. And so I was praying, and I was like, Lord, I really just want to be wherever you are, because I know that this isn't you. Like, I know there's got to be something more to life than just like going to church every Sunday. Yeah. You know, and me trying to be good, you know, and knowing that drugs are wrong or alcohol is wrong, and what else is there, you know? And so I was like, Lord, I just want to be where you are, you know, like basically, what should I do? Where should I go? Just take me there. And so eventually we end up going to the place we go to now, the religious church things, because it was literally just them telling us, you're always going to be this way. They would say like, you're always going to have your hang-ups, or you're always basically like, you can never really be free. You know, like this is basically, they're like, this is all that there is. You know, like you just do your best, and and God loves you. And so I was like, well, that feels kind of like empty, to be honest. Like there really doesn't seem like there's any hope in that. There's no true freedom. And here I am just waiting to, I guess, go to heaven. I'm not sure. We started going to the ministry that we go to now. I had gone a couple times by myself, actually, on a Thursday night, because back then my husband, Colton, he would travel. And so I had my oldest daughter, and then I had my middle daughter, and then I had my youngest son. And back then he was just a baby, and My middle daughter, she was like 7 months old. And so I would take them all by myself, which is an act of God by itself. But I would take them and I would go, and I remember listening to just the worship and everything. And I remember just literally just crying and just bawling, and the Lord would just touch me. And I would just be like, wow, just people would just speak so much life into me, and that just basically that the Lord saw me and just different things. I'm literally gonna cry again. Anyway, I kept doing that for a little while, and literally every time I would go, they would speak prophetically into me. They would give me words that only, the Lord would know, and just different things. And I had never even heard of such a thing before, but I was just so amazed. And I would go and I'd be driving home and I would call Colton and I'd be like, Colton, you're never going to believe this. This is what they said. This is what happened. And he would be on the phone talking about like, what the heck? And so he was like, I have to go, I have to come. And so when he came back into town, the next time we were able, because we still went to another ministry and we were trying to figure out where the Lord wanted us to go, he came, and we came during a revival service, actually, like a week long, maybe. We end up getting totally and radically, what it felt like was really saved, even though we were saved, but we actually came to know who the Lord really was. Like, he met us in such a powerful way. It's the first time that we encountered the power of God, and that we felt like true freedom, that we got called into ministry. Even though we were doing ministry, it was just so different. And the Lord really started to set us free and show us who he really was. It took me a long time to really understand God as a good father, or somebody who had like really good plans for me, since I just never had anything like that, or never really saw like a future, I guess. I realized that my life had meaning, that I was made for a purpose, and it was bigger than I thought. And the Lord has just redeemed me and my husband's. We never had a bad relationship, but he's brought us closer in unity and in love. And we've adopted our nephew, which was only by the Lord's grace, because it's not easy having 3 kids. And then we've taken in a teenager now, and he's definitely just did a complete work and changed my life completely. And meeting him changed everything for me. Finding out that he's so real and so tangible, and he loved me unconditionally, and he loves us unconditionally. And he set me free from addiction, fear, anxiety, and gave me meaning and purpose. And now I get to see other people meet him, encounter him, and change the same way I did. And it's like there's nothing like it. I count everything else as loss at the surpassing worth of knowing him. And that's my testimony.
Jesus is a faithful friend. He alone. And in my weaknesses, he is with me.